It's quite hard to get your first set of smokers looking to quit. So how did that happen?
I think for us, we were never shy about being laughed at or being told that this is terrible, this is a bad idea, or being kind of, you know, getting it wrong. So if you're waiting to be proud of what you're putting in people's hands, you're waiting too long. So we built some, like, just to think back anecdotally, like I was always very curious about financial incentives and driving behaviors. I guess being a banker for so many years, it influenced that I thought. And I was curious I was interested to see that there was actually a lot of clinical research, behavioral psychology around a space called contingency management, that there were studies done to show outcomes if you could reward people conditionally upon them doing something. And these studies were done super inefficiently. Like for smoking cessation, the conclusions were pretty positive, but the methods were terrible. Like they got people to pee on a stick or submit a saliva sample, and then months or weeks later, they would send a check in the mail or deposit or send them a gift card to reward people. Came back negatively. And we thought, okay, well, this is interesting that there's still decent results here. Can we simulate this in a better way? And we Googled ways to measure the behavior with kind of remote monitoring devices, because at the time, continuous glucose monitoring and blood pressure cuffs and these kind of things were becoming interesting, or there was some experimentation happening, and I was curious to see, like, what other biomarkers can you measure? What devices were there? Can you measure the smoking biomarker? Is anyone looking at that? And there was literally just like one company that had a device on the market that you could buy. And we just bought a device, took it apart, and tried to see if we could, if we could get in touch with the manufacturers and see if they'll kind of give us the source code to develop some software around it. But in the meantime, round up some smoking friends and colleagues, people that we saw around, sometimes hanging out by construction sites, sometimes hanging out outside the Salvation Army, and just seeing if we could catch someone smoking and just be like, hey, we'll pay you $20 for this study. And then part of the study is if you can go home with this device, hook it to take a screenshot of the result that you get after you smoke, and just we'll Venmo you cash over the course of a week if you'll just do that work for us. And we wanted to test, can we get someone to do that really annoying thing of A, speaking to a stranger, B, taking home this random device, C, like taking a screenshot and texting it to some unknown number, and in the hope that you'll get some Venmo dollars back. And surprisingly, people did it. We were very generous. Obviously, we wanted to find the ceiling for which we can do it. It wasn't going to be a scalable experiment, but if we could find a ceiling, then we can only reduce the cost by improving the product and figuring out what worked, what didn't, and just observing what happens in the wild. So that's kind of how we started. And you just got to figure out the most basic, low cost experiments to run so that you can see the thing operating in the wild, and then you'll get some surprising observations or validate some of your hypotheses, not all of them, but you kind of go from
That's